In this video session, you'll discover how to use ChatGPT for copywriting, and more specifically, the number one hack that turns ChatGPT into an A-list copywriter instantly. And I have no one other than Jon Benson with me today. He's one of $3 billion copywriters, an early pioneer of AI and copy, and he's the creator of bnsn.ai, bnsn.ai, the world's first long-form direct response AI copywriter. So I thought bringing you the best guest for this kind of topic today. There's a lot of people talking about copywriting, but not a lot of people have as much experience as Jon. So warm welcome.
Hey, thanks so much for having me, Navid. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So why don't we get in here? Because I wanted just to kind of start this off, how you got into AI as an A-list copywriter, charging, a lot of money to your clients, right? Upwards, $50,000 maybe for a sales page or even more, plus like
Right.
the, rev share and stuff like that. So how does this work for you to kind of sharing these kind of secrets when it comes to AI, ChatGPT and all this as a copywriter?
Well, I got into copywriting long before AI was ever even a thing. So when I got into copywriting indirectly, I never planned to be one. I created the first video sales letter in 2006. So that was it was more accidental than anything else. And I was trying to write a sales page at the time and failing miserably. And so I decided, well, what if I broke it out into chunks and made it into a video presentation instead, but without, rather than having it look like a PowerPoint thing, like some other guys were doing. I was like, what if I made this to where I went back to my advertising days where I used to own an ad firm, and we would do a lot of black and white and red that were our primary colors for ads. And so I was like, well, what if every single sentence was its own headline? Like the idea came of me thinking, well, I mean, everyone reads headlines, everyone read subheadlines. So what if everything was a headline? So the very first VSL, if you guys remember back that far, it was title cased. It was every slide was a headline. And that's where that came from. It's came from my idea of like, well, what if we made everything a headline? So even though it technically isn't, obviously it looks that way. And then I put the NLP stuff in there with the red, the red letters were the NLP commands and phrases I wanted them to follow. And I started doing looping phrases, which is where you phrase over connecting phrases rather, where you phrase over a series of slides. So over a series of 7 slides, it would say, you really need to buy this now, or something silly like that. I mean, I was playing around with all kinds of crazy stuff to get people to, get their attention, and it worked clearly. And so that became like, and still is, one of the biggest selling mechanisms online. And so that was the impetus that drove people to want to hire me as a copywriter. And for years after that, I said, well, I'm not a copywriter, but I can write a VSL. And then eventually I just took on the moniker of copywriter after giving up John Carlton threatening me, saying you should be, don't say you're not a copywriter anymore. So I didn't. And there we go. Now we're here. So
Absolutely. I mean, for those of you who are watching who don't know, VSL is like a video sales letter, right? Really popular. A lot of marketers and entrepreneurs, they're using it to sell their products and services. But yeah, how did you kind of stumble across? I mean, you've been doing copywriting, as you said, a long time. How did you stumble across like AI and getting into this as an also kind of early adopter? You're even developing your own software for long form direct response, right? So how did you get into this, and how do you see that kind of working very well with what you are doing?
Well, I got into that in 2010. So I was trying to think of a way to get people to take the VSL course I'd created, which had broken down a VSL into every single slide. So every single slide had its own series of tutorials, which is ridiculous, but that's what I thought it needed to be extremely specific. And then I thought, well, I wonder if we could build software that would make it easier, because that way somebody could what if we could have them choose the copy they wanted and then have that choose, the copy on the next slide and onward and so forth. So it wasn't AI, it was very HI, human intelligence, but it was the start of it, because we had to break down language. How do you make a VSL for finance that also works for weight loss? So obviously we had to figure out, like, if you really want to primary goal without objection, then you need to watch this video. That kind of stuff is, I was one of the first guys to really crack that code. And then we did it pretty well for Accelerator, which is what it was called. Then it changed its name to now VSL. And then we did it again for Copy Pro, which was nascent AI for sure. It was the start of what AI needed to understand itself. So it never was AI, but it certainly was preparing the way for it. So we were like just waiting around with bated breath until AI caught up to what we were doing, because we knew we had figured out how language patterns work, hundreds of different, what we call fields, the data that go into these sentences that make up the copy that you see. So we got to the point where we could, what we call field, we could block and field, or there are terms, we could block and field a John Carlton sales letter or a Magalog, or we could block and field anything. And it was just a big, huge, hairy ass manual process that was very much a pain in the butt. And that's what Copy Pro was for 6 years. And when ChatGPT came out, it just kind of train wrecked that. But what was interesting is that we were way ahead of the curve with now VSL, because we were like, okay, well, this we know how to do this with VSLs. So we started, I started playing around really early on with Jasper, specifically with VSLs. And so I took my VSL company and said, hey, what if we could like take what they're doing with GPT and figure out a way to have it build out the library that they need of copy to fill in all these slides. And at first people told us we couldn't do it. And we just, pretty much gave up. And then when I met the guys at Jasper, they said, no, we could do this for VSLs. And so I worked with their team and one of the main guys over there to break this apart for VSLs, and got it to work for a 60-second VSL. And right now that 60 to 90-second VSL is still in Jasper. It's, it says, no, from Jon Benson and all that stuff. So that's as long as it would go, and that's as long as we could do. And then we said, well, hey, let's just keep going with this. And then my company, Digital Publisher, kind of cracked the code on how to do it for long form copy entirely. So that's where we're at right now. So it's kind of like an evolution over.
No, it's very interesting, because a lot of criticism to kind of AI, especially from a lot of copywriters making money from this, they have said it doesn't sound human, and so there's like pros and cons, right? But one of your things, especially I read kind of what you have written a little bit, it's like you make it sound like, a real direct response copywriter. How do you, what's your response to that? Like, they told us, hey, I can't create long form sales copy that sounds human, and you're saying they're all wrong. So can you talk a little bit to that?
Yeah.
I thought that was really interesting.
That's literally on bnsn.ai. So
yeah, I was reading that, and I thought it's a good, it's a good statement, because a lot of people, they're using AI, I guess, the wrong way, or we're going to showcase also a screen share later. You can show people some prompts and stuff you can put in, but I guess that's probably garbage in, garbage out, right? People are not knowing how to use it correctly. So what's your approach to this?
Well, so I was the first guy, and I don't know why this is the case, but when I started teaching early on, like with the guys with Jasper, we sat down and we were figuring out, like, okay, prompts aren't getting it done, no matter what we prompted Jasper with at the time. And this is before GPT-4 came out. No matter what we were doing, it just wasn't working. It was just getting this really blasé, soulless kind of copy, typical, chat copy that still is today, to be honest. That's very, very blah. And we were like, and there's no way I could do a long form sales letter, just time out. It didn't have enough token, enough bandwidth and all that stuff. But we were thinking, well, what if we did it in chunks, because we're used to doing things in chunks? And what if we, like I broke things out into chunks for the very first VSL. And so why not just do the same thing? What if we did it in like these little bits and phrases? And we'd ask it to do these bits and phrases with prompts, and it would be like, it would spit out this really, hey, do you want this? Then you'll need this product. And it's just a typical radio voice guy copy that's just god awful. And so, just one day I was goofing around with one of my engineers, and I said, hey, I'm going to try something and let's see if it will work. And because I started thinking, well, he was telling me that, okay, well, chat loves to think in terms of logical formulas, right? Because it's a logical prediction engine, really. It's not nearly as creative as people think. It's very logical. So I said, well, what if we turned copy into a logical equation? So what if I gave it an equation and said, solve for X? And that was the birth of what we later trademarked. It's trademark called pre-prompting. And pre-prompting is what you enter into chat before you ever enter a prompt. And it's very similar to few-shot learning, but it's beyond that, because few-shot learning is great, which we use for Benson a lot, but it's also where you're using formulas and data sets so that we're showing chat that, hey, here's a formula that you need to solve for, and it looks a certain way and it sounds a certain way, and chat doesn't want to betray its nature and solves for the formula. And when it does, it constrains how it writes most of the time. This is the caveat that none of these AI gurus will tell you about, is that chat doesn't work, I'd say 30% of the time, just doesn't, because it's a petulant tween. If you have a 13-year-old daughter that is just petulant as hell, that's what chat is. Okay. So just think of it that way. It's not an adult. You can tell it the same exact thing twice and it will do two different things sometimes. But it's an amazing tool, and it's just going to get better over time. So with that caveat out of the way, because so you kind of have to hold your breath sometimes, but you could prompt it with something the size of War and Peace. You could prompt it with every conceivable command that you want, and it will still say, fuck you, I'm going to give you what I want, and just bonker out. Unless you do this is what we found. We were getting very, very consistent results with this pre-prompting stuff. Now I started calling it pre-prompting because it was I'd say, before you do the prompt, we need to do that pre-prompt thing. And it just came out in conversation one day. I said, hey, that's a pretty good, unique mechanism. We should trademark that, and ended up trademarking it. But pre-prompting is a combination of data, formula, and in few-shot learning together. So we turn copy into a formula, and it does it really, really well. So with pre-prompts, which I can't show you this, but because it's proprietary, but Benson is able to create entire buyer's roadmaps for people, which is like every single phrase that your customer needs to hear to make a sale in about 15 seconds. And that's only because we've trained it with hundreds of examples from our now VSL customers. So we already know that, okay, these are the data that they need to see, right? So we trained it with that. So that's straightforward training. So that most AI copy sucks because it's not coming from a trained, you haven't trained a specific set of DaVinci or whatever. It's your own little, think of training as your own little server. It's not, but let's think of it that way. So there's that, but then there's training in the moment. There's few-shot learning in the moment. And we take that few-shot learning and we just put it on steroids with the formulas and the solve for X's and stuff. So it sounds really complicated. But here's the coolest thing about it, as I'll show you. It's just cut and paste, simple. It's like, I basically made it to where anyone could do this. And with what we call refiner prompts, because this is what's really chat's really good at. Once it gets an idea of what you want, then you prompt it and say, okay, I like this, but write it more like this. Then it will start if for whatever reason, it will stop being a petulant tween for a moment and start being somewhat responsible and writing much better copy. So that's basically what we do. We rely on what we call refiner prompts, but we start with what we call pre-prompts, and those pre-prompts are everything. So that's why Benson is with the other thing we were trademarking. Haven't got it yet, but it's promptless AI. Because we don't use prompts. The customer doesn't use prompts. You never put a prompt in Benson ever. So you never have to do anything. All you have to do, you literally, it's just the demo that we have coming up on the 19th is I'm going to show somebody how I can write an entire VSL with a copy and paste from Google. And it will sound like me.
Oh,
Now,
so interesting, to be
yeah,
honest, and because everyone they are selling these kind of prompt packs and everything, and
yeah,
you're, I mean,
yeah.
I like this. I like that it's kind of this is
It's definitely
different.
not
So,
prompts. It's definitely not
would you
prompts.
say
Yeah.
is the because you're saying the number one hack that turns ChatGPT into an A-list copywriter instantly? Do you want to show us kind of what
It's
this is, or
pre-prompting. Yeah. So
yeah,
I'll show
I
you
mean,
an
I would say it's the
yeah,
pre-prompting since you have alluded to,
yeah.
but do you want to show us some examples what this can look like in real life, maybe for a sales page you mentioned before, or so
So
someone can do this even if they are a beginner?
I will show you an example, and let me see if I can pull one up here. Okay, you can see this. Okay, so now this is the start of a pre-prompt. I'm giving you an older one because we've modified this. And so just so you know, in Benson, you would never see any of this because Benson has all this built in. We built Benson to build all this into a piece of software so no one ever has to mess with this stuff. The other thing is that we're showing you one formula as an example, like right underneath here. So we have a sales page lead. That's a formula. So we're telling ChatGPT to follow this as a formula. Don't follow it as a written template. It's just a formula. Here is the ideas that you want to go through. And as you can see in here, what we have spread throughout are what was called nested prompts. Okay. So in the middle, we have this nested prompt. And these nested prompts, by the way, should actually be two of these. Whoops. Because we have a different command prompt now. But now I'm just going to do this just real quick here. All I have to do as a user is fill this out, which we can fill out everything except what's your name and what's your niche and what's your avatar, because we don't know that, right? But you have to fill in that kind of stuff. But anyone can fill that out. So if my niche, let's say, is weight loss, and my avatar is women over 450, I can leave all the rest of this stuff out. If I have a hook, I could use the hook. In other words, if I already had that, but if I don't have it, I leave it empty and let chat come up with it. I have to come up with my name. So also it's a name, Jon Benson. Might help if I spell my own name correctly. And my credentials is, I'm just going to make this up here. Harvard PhD in chemistry. Now that's a stupid credentials. Okay. So I'm purposely writing really stupid. Like I'm not writing at all. And so what I would do in Benson, you just click a button. What I would do here is just come down here and just copy all of this, pop over into chat. I'm in GPT-4, copy paste. But so this is just to give you an idea. So, but notice how it's doing things that are not typical of chat. Notice the super short sentences, right? And notice this paragraphs that are like, this is just broken out just like it would be in a sales letter lead. So now I'm getting a sales letter lead that's about 80% good. And I can sit there from here and refine the hell out of it. And this is one thing that we notice is what chat does, if left on its own devices, it's following this formula really, really well. So it knows not to use complex words. It knows not to do this. Whenever we give it what's that nested prompt inside the pre-prompt, it's a prompt within the pre-prompt, it starts saying, in the midst of countless data points, I uncovered a hidden pattern, a unique so it's not bad, but this whole new realm of possibilities, it gets revelation. Chat thinks it's a poet. All right. Chat thinks it's a freaking poet. So this is where we come in over here and grab one of our mini refiner prompts and just copy and paste it in here. So now it's going to do the same exact thing, but it's going to be even more tight. It's going to be much more like copy. Short, sharp, boom, just like this, right? And that's what we want. But also within here, we're telling it to do things that we know it needs to do. Like we don't want to just say something, we want to show something. So we're using what's called dimensionalization blocks. We're using NLP. We're using a bunch of stuff that we copywriters know is super, super important. Okay. So notice when I did this, got a PhD in chemistry from Harvard. So it actually added a little bit more to it. It's a getting them feel good to their dreams, tell it business share, blah, blah, blah. So it's writing like a Jon Benson style sales letter, which is very chunky. It's very, very specific. It's very simple. There's no lofty words in this now because I told it not to do this, but that only worked, and it only will keep working if we use those refiner prompts and pre-prompts. That's how we do it. So, and then we do it just in sections. So a sales letter may have 15 sections because, again, chat's going to time out. Right now, it's timing out after about 1,000 words. Now, that's not normal. It's just a new thing that just came up as of yesterday. If you're entering a prompt, a lot of people were emailing me yesterday going, man, is your stuff going to still work because it's timing out after 1,000 words? I'm like, yeah, totally. Because it's creating, there's a formula that it has to follow, and it has to solve for that X, and pre-prompting forces it to solve for that X. So that's the reason why you were seeing all those, the longer
but
copy.
this is awesome. And do you think this, will AI replace copywriters, or is it just an assistant, basically?
No.
I mean, for you as a tool, I mean, you're still, I don't know if you still work with high-end clients and stuff like that, but I guess you're using it as a tool in your arsenal now to make it more efficient.
I write for a couple clients a year. That's all just to keep my chops up. The rest of it I do for my own stuff. But I have 36 products, so I'm always writing for my own stuff. And
of course.
do I turn to AI to write? This is what it's like. It's not like I've got multiple businesses. It's not like it's not like my fitness business, right? Where I will take stuff that I do in the gym or how I eat and tell people this is what I do. And if you want to do what I do this, right? That's completely different than this because I'm a professional copywriter. I'm not a professional dieter. I'm a professional copywriter. So I didn't build Benson for me. I built Benson for you. The professional copywriters, that's what we do. That's like, that's what gives us joy. That's what we're passionate about. That's what, that's awesome. So I don't see Benson or any tool like it, ChatGPT, Jasper, whatever tool you want to use, as a replacement for copywriters. I see it as the absolute best copy assistant anyone can ever have. And if you can't afford a copywriter, by all means, it's miles above what most people can write. And how most people can write. And then of course, that's just one example of one formula. There could be hundreds of different
what I find interesting is that you think like someone who is, obviously you need to learn marketing and stuff like that. It's just you need to know what to put in and stuff like that. And you need to have a great product. There's many things you need to have in place in order for it to sell. But do you think someone can basically have a pretty similar level of copy if they are not a copywriter using the methods you have shared? Like, do you think there's AI generated copy versus human, with some obviously help, obviously you can tweak certain things. Do you think that's still some fair competition?
Oh yeah. I mean, like I've got I have an AI coaching group that meets every week. Right. And I'd say 80% of the people are not copywriters. They're just marketers and business owners. And I get testimonials all the time. I got 18% conversions on the sales letter that chat letters wrote for me, and they're taking it and they put their own touches on it, and that's what they need. Everybody needs to do that. That's awesome. But when you're not a copywriter and you're getting those kind of numbers, then this is the next best thing to having
or they can hire you for like, I don't know what to charge, but like a lot of money or someone like that. I mean, copywriter starts from a few $1,000s all the way up to multiple
I'm
5,000, multiple 6, 100,000 plus, right? Yeah. So if you can learn this with, the help of AI, ChatGPT, and tools like what you have developed with Benson, that's pretty incredible, right? But do you think it's going to be close, like in terms of like how someone can start from scratch? How far can you go, right? Like, is it 80% done when you're using AI, or how much of your own personalization do you need to add to it in order to be like have this human level touch, so it doesn't feel like it's an AI generated sales letter only?
Well, I could show you a sales page that I wrote using the exact course I just showed you. I used the long form version, and I'll show that to you. And I show it to people for a reason, that this converts 7.2% on cold traffic. So that's a very, very good conversion rate on cold traffic. And it's the offer was actually off. It was off by $100. We figured out that just price testing. So it's probably going to go up in the conversion rate, but that's neither here nor there. This was written 85% with chat. The other 15% cannot be completely negated and shouldn't be. And I don't think if people are saying that, could it be 100% written by chat? Sure, because it was. It's just that I went back and said, I'm a big editor, so I'm a professional copywriter. So I have a way of doing, edits that are in my own style that AI can't mimic. I have an editing course coming out next year that is, it's 30-hour course. It's not editing is a whole skill into itself. But if you hired me to write copy for you, you would still have to hire an editor, either me or somebody else. So if you hired the best copywriter in the world, it would still be edited. So if people are expecting copy to come out that's not edited, that's not personalized in the least, they're just dreaming. It's not even close to that right now, I don't think. But it's 85%. And if you're not willing to do 15%, go get another job. You're in the wrong business, pal. You are in the wrong business. Just sign up as a barista at Starbucks or something. I don't know, man, because 85%, it's like for $20 a month, which is what, ChatGPT is. Benson's more expensive than that because ChatGPT can't do what you just saw. It's just, it has to go through all that stuff. And if you're doing a whole sales letter or email campaign and blah, 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 you'd have to have all that Benson does it all automatically. So yeah, it's well worth the money. But so in other words, if you get a copy assistant for a couple $100 a month, I mean, just, yeah, insane. I mean, that's where
for
people
a reason, by the way, because I see a lot of crappy copy and crappy blog posts, crappy content in general that it's now AI generated, and also like even faceless YouTube channels. There's a lot of stuff coming out, but people don't personalize or take the time to actually make something kind of mediocre or okay, really great or epic. If you take the extra time, like, 15, 20% or whatever you need, then you're going to actually have great copy, great content online, which, you should want that, because that's actually reflects on your brand at the end of the day. Right. So yeah, I completely agree. I don't know if you wanted to show this, what it can look like.
Okay. This is a sales letter that was written 85% with ChatGPT. So I'm just going to scroll down here. So this right here, I wrote. Okay. So I'm just telling you what I wrote. It wrote half of this headline and subheadline. I tweaked it a little bit because I rewrite pre-prompting. We changed it to one word, by the way. But anyway, haven't changed. But now you can just look through this and read this and see that none of this sounds like chat. Okay. The one thing that I've got this series of pre-prompts and refiner prompts that make pluralized verbs, and I have an editing trick that makes everything feel like it's done for you. I know how to pull out these subheadlines, like I pulled out the subheadlines, but the chat wrote the subheadlines. So because I stumbled onto this is just right out of my own copywriting style. So, but as you can see, this is a sales letter that does not look or feel or respond. These are all real testimonials, obviously. Type 4 to 5 words. You saw me do that, but you saw me type 4 to 5 words, just to get, that's kind of crazy. So this is the offer for the very thing that you're talking about. So down to the bullets, it wrote all these bullets. So yeah, so you get the idea. This is not your typical sales letter as far as AI goes. And that was written 85% with chat.
Yeah, that's why I invited you, because I know you were doing things a little bit different, right? You're not everyone else. They might talk about different things or pretend they're like a copywriter, but they haven't really had the level of experience to come up with this. But do you see any other kind of misconceptions? We mentioned here about the editing, right? People just think they can put out something. Is there anything else you see when it comes to misconceptions with kind of AI generated copy that, people should think about?
The biggest misconception is that you can prompt your way there. That is the biggest misconception. Yeah. Prompts are commands that you give AI, right? And you cannot command AI to be illogical. And sales copy is often illogical. So it's not, you have to trick it. And prompting is just, it's not there yet. It's just, can you get good copy with the really, really good prompts? Sure. But can you get a long form sales letter? I've never seen one like that before. I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm saying that I've never seen it. And And if it was, let me tell you, there'd be a lot of series of prompts and more prompts and more prompts, and you'd turn yourself into a prompt engineer. So that page was not written with prompts. That page was written with pre-prompting and refiner prompts.
Very interesting. I mean, you can what I've used it for, obviously, outline content, blog posts and stuff like that. That's kind of good for ChatGPT directly. You can prompt it for this, but like a long form sales letter is very, very specific. So I guess it gets way more difficult to get it the way you want. And especially like with the conversion rates you shared, like you said, cold traffic, like over 7%, which is pretty incredible. And that was 85% AI generated and then 15% editing from you. So that's pretty awesome. But yeah, you're a copywriter, but then if you learn these, tricks, I guess you can get to maybe even if you get a little bit less, it's still really, really good,
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, it's again, it's like your choices in this matter are very, very simple choices. You can write this on your own. And if you're if you're not a copywriter, just good luck. That's probably not a good idea. You can hire a copywriter, which is super expensive, or you can do it like this. So those are your choices. And I personally think that it's certainly better to do it like this first. And then if all else fails, hire a copywriter. Or what I tell people to do is hire a copywriter to edit the page that you create using the stuff that we teach. Then you got the best of all worlds. You got way cheaper copywriting bill. And a lot of people feel like they don't even, need to do that much editing. So it's really up to the individual offers.
That's awesome. And yeah, we talked about the long form sales pages, but what about emails and stuff like that? Do you use it for this as well? Like, I mean, they're typically a little bit shorter. I mean, can be long, but not as long as a long form sales page. So how do you go about this, which is, which usually drives the sales to the offers, right? Is the email marketing.
Right. Well, so if I have a course called Chat Copy System, which is if people want to take the course versus Benson, the software, then it's 5 of my chat courses that deal with emails, that deal with sales pages, VSLs, sales bullets, all that kind of stuff. So email that's been a passion of mine for a long time. So that was the second course I came out with was chat mail. So that was how to write these kind of what I call epic emails, or my style of emails. So engagement, promotional, inspiration, consumption emails, and you can write them all using chat, same exact system. But the thing is with pre-prompting, all the formulas obviously radically change. So there's a formula for a sales lead is completely different than a formula for an email is completely different than and so, and as we go along in our portal, we change like, for example, the course I just pulled up was our very first, I just showed you an iteration of it. It's not the current iteration. The current iteration is inside our product portal, and all the pre-prompts are underneath the course that people get. And so when they get able to log in, so we change it there. It's like, I came up with a better way to do that, like a better command prompt or a better refiner prompt or a better formula or whatever, or a new formula.
Anatomy of an epic Benson email? What does it look like typically?
Well, so there's 4 different types of emails that every business needs: engagement, promotion, inspiration, consumption. So that's it. That's other than the transactional email saying, here's your receipt. And even that I would consider would be a consumption email, because I would say I would do something. I would actually turn that into a promotional email, because those emails get opened 85% of the time. And P.S., did you see this? You might want to check this out. And it's a sales email. Then. So, but for an epic email, sometimes we'll combine all 4 of the epic frameworks into one email. And we can do that with pre-prompts and formulas and command prompts, exactly what we've been talking about. So I can copy, paste, go and get a whole series of epic emails for a promotional sequence, which is really, really cool.
Okay.
Can model anything we want that way.
And I guess you do the same for like shorter landing pages for webinars and stuff like that as well. It's the kind of the same formula that you use for the long form sales pages, correct?
Yeah. I haven't done one for a webinar yet, because we're going to do a Jason Fladlin style webinar. Jason's
nice.
Is one of my friends and partners on promoting Benson. So, and we're going to be yeah, I've got a Jon Benson style webinar with Mike Filsame, that I'm going to be doing as well. That will be done inside Benson. That's not going to be a course. That will only be done inside Benson.
Okay.
But to do a webinar is, man, it is, yeah. I mean, you're asking a lot out of AI. You're asking a lot out of anybody to do a whole webinar, because a webinar, as you know, there's a teaching component to it. But if you get too deep into teaching, it's very, very tricky. So it needs to be trained in a very, very specific way. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. Well, how do you see kind of the future of AI copywriting and where things are going? I mean, you're developing a lot of stuff with your own software, but in general, where do you see this going in the near future or in the long-term future as well?
Well, I know where we're taking it. We're taking it from Benson rolls out with the library of pre-prompts, and we call copy assets. So you can choose your assets. Like I need a long form sales page. I need a 12 sequence email. I need a whatever you need, so you'll be able to do all of that, which is great. Then we move into our next phase of that, which is going to be fully trained AI. So we'll have our own AI engine, our own AI portal, where we've trained it on hundreds of examples of every single style that we can think of from every different type of copy asset that we can think of. And that is the end goal dream, because we have A-list copywriters that are doing nothing but that. And eventually you'll have one AI that will basically rule them all when it comes down to copy. And that's what we want to be. We want to be the AI that rules them all. When it comes down to being able to specifically create long form direct response style copy. So when I say long form, I mean sequential copy. So Benson is the first AI that I'm aware of, at least. Again, I'm pretty up on everything AI, but no one's up on everything AI, because God knows there's another app popping up every second. But right now we're the only one that I know of that does sequential stuff and does it really, really well. In other words, that we have a way of walking somebody through a 12-step sequence of emails to say, okay, in email 3, it looks like we need these 3 things from you, or you can leave them blank if you're super lazy. But it would certainly help if you told us what your offer price would be. Yeah, things like that, right? So, and then we just walk them through, and each email might have its own set of refiner prompts. So we can isolate that email and go, oh, okay, run this prompt. You can do it. You can do it if you want. You don't have to do anything if you want. Click next. So we've turned copywriting AI into a promptless copy paste endeavor. That was the goal, and that's the big promise. So that's where it's going for sure. It's going entirely promptless. Because again, I want to make this very, very clear. Like Sam Woods, I just got the pleasure of getting to have him on our mastermind call the other day, and he's a genius guy. I love him, but I don't think most people want to become prompt engineers. So I think where AI is heading is to what we're trademarking is promptless AI, which is, i.e. that you don't have to mess around with the prompts. Let us do all of that for you, based on, again, we know the questions to ask. And this is the problem that people have. I think that the AI has with copy. There are people that are trying to use AI to prompt their way to copy, and then it magically starts typing stuff out, and they go, wow, that's awesome. No, it sucks. It's terrible copy. How do you know it's good copy? So unless you understand copy, unless you are a copywriter, right? How do you know if it's good? Now, even copywriters, you can't always tell if it's good or not, but you have a much better shot at figuring out if it's good or not. So what we're doing with Benson is like, okay, we're giving you stuff that we know has worked many, many times in the past. And then we're giving you all the refiner prompts that we know we would run on this. So your odds against getting good copy go way, way, way up, right? So even then, it's not going to be perfect all the time for everybody. We don't have we're not laboring under any illusion of perfection, but it's going to be really close. It's going to be really, really good. And that's where it's going, man. I think it's going to be entirely promptless and entirely intuitive, to where the user just clicks and points and goes. And then, and this is where I'm going to keep hammering this point, you need to learn the basics of copywriting now more than ever, so that you understand when you see something. Like I understood when I was watching that lead write, when it said, instead of, you will, I know what that is. I know what that's doing. I know if I want that in my lead. Do I want a dimensionalized benefit block in my lead? I know that. I'm not expecting you to know that. I'm not expecting your audience to know that. I know as a copywriter, it's like, oh, that's a cool trick. Yeah. So if I choose a separate lead, I might say, I want you to rewrite this lead, but rewrite it as a contrarian lead. Well, what is a contrarian lead? If you don't know, it's okay, but it's why would you know if you're not a copywriter? How would you even know to ask for it?
Mm-hmm.
So if we tell you what to ask for, hey, here are 5 leads that we think would be really cool alternatives. One is called a contrarian lead. Want to look at it? And then you don't have to know what it is. Just click a button and boom, and go, oh, that means it's like, hey, when everybody else was doing this, I'm over here doing this. I'll give you an example of a contrarian lead. Look, everyone and their dog is talking about prompts, how awesome prompts are. Well, prompts fucking suck. I'm telling you right now, prompts are not the answer. I'm doing something totally different and I'm getting A-list quality response. I'm getting 6-figure sales pages out of this. That's a contrarian lead, without the swearing.
I love it because
I would swear, but
no, this is great because you say you need to learn copywriting. Like people miss this, I think, a lot of the times. This thing, like AI is gonna do everything, but you need to understand, like AI can help you like as an assistant, but you need to understand what is good copy. You need to be able to see it. You need to be able to identify it. I think that's a huge takeaway actually for people to not just neglect this just because AI is out.
Yeah.
And I love, we have talked obviously a lot about your tool, which is, I love this because it's so specific. It's so specific what it can do. And I think that's great with all the other tools popping up left and right, different tools. There's some useful ones. There's some really crappy ones, right?
Tons.
So I mean, ChatGPT is great. Obviously is what started it. And then you have, there's been tools before that, like Jasper, you mentioned you work with them. Is there anything else you're having in your arsenal when it comes to tools, or do you feel like for everything you're just using your own Benson software now?
For copy, we'd just be using Benson and Chat, just because again, we know what to ask and we know what to look for when we're doing stuff like this. So if we ever wanted to use prompts, that's where we go. But as far as outside of that field, we're big fans of Stu McLaren stuff, Searchy. We use Searchy to host
I love
everything.
It. I use it too.
And Wisdom, they changed the name of Wisdom. I don't know what they're calling it now, but
Wisdom AI or something like that. Wisdom Chat, so something like that.
So we have, I'm going to call it Wisdom Stu. Sorry, I don't know the name of it, but Wisdom, we use it to what's called JonBot. So it's my brain in a vat, basically, for every single product that we have. And it's able to do, but Wisdom is a great example of AI not working perfectly. So AI, I can go in there and ask Wisdom, what is the P in Epic email? And it will go, I don't know. And then I'll say, what does EPIC stand for? And it will say perfectly. So this is an example of, okay, it doesn't know this, but it does know this because it just answered it, right? And so and their customer service is awesome. They're they're very, very helpful. Like if I send them something saying, hey, this isn't working, but it should be, they'll look into it. But what I'm saying is that for us to bitch about that, oh, it's not perfect. Of course it's not perfect. It's artificial intelligence. I mean, hell, the first word should give it away, right? Artificial? Most things artificial are not perfect. So we need to dismiss the idea of it being perfect. But we also need to understand that, for example, Searchy, Wisdom are tools that have totally changed, in my opinion, the way people consume content. They're on the cutting edge. You need to be right here, right now, as these things evolve. If you wait until they're perfect, you'll be waiting a long time and you'll be missing out on just tons of really, really helpful stuff right now. The same goes with Benson. The same goes with any AI tool out there that you use. None of them are perfect. People in the AI development community all know this all too well, that again, chat can just completely spurge out for a day. And there's no one, if OpenAI's, large language model systems go down for a day or whatever, there's nothing in the world anybody can do about that. But we need to look at it from a position of how cool is it to have 80% of the time. So So Benson's shooting for 90-10, but 80-20 is a really reasonable goal. If you can get you 80% of the copy, where you get 80% of a draft and it's 80% good. I mean, hell, I mean, again, professional copywriter. A guy comes in off the street, writes 80% of a letter, good for me. I am going to hire that guy. Absolutely. 100%. If I can get that out of a machine, then it's even better. And then I would give that 80% over to a professional copywriter to tweak it. Let's say if I didn't want to do it. So, or even better, and this is what I want to get across. If a professional copywriter is using AI to get that, he or she gets to do it way faster. And then before you hand over the 80%, you can tweak it. And now it's a 95%. And now I'm going, wow, you are the greatest copywriter since John Carlton. So, hire you. That's where copywriters can see, well, their businesses can triple. I could have easily tripled my copywriting business with AI if it would have been around. And people need to look at it as a copy assistant. That's a really badass one if you know how to train it.
Yeah, no, I love it. This has been a really great session, John. I like what you shared. You're different, and I love what you're doing with your tool, bnsn.ai as well. So yeah, leave your biggest takeaways below here. Connect with John, obviously, all across the web. I'll link up some resources below as well. I don't know where you wanted to direct people. Do you have anywhere people want to connect with you more?
Yeah, just bnsn.ai for sure. Go there. jonbenson.com/YouTube is all. I have a pretty active YouTube community with tons of YouTube videos on this topic.
Awesome. Yeah, leave your biggest takeaways, connect with John, and subscribe to the channel for more. And I'll talk to you guys very soon. Ciao for now.